What is up, guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, and I am back for the second time this week to bring you guys a Market Watch episode. Don't worry, I haven't stolen the channel from Tombox or anything. He will be back from vacation next week with some more regularly scheduled content for you guys, but don't get your hopes up because I will still be here too. Anyways, in this video, what I want to do is discuss a few things that have come up in the Yu-Gi-Oh market as a result of the new Battles of Legends set coming out this week. To start off with, I want to talk about a couple of cards that I think you should be investing in picking up. Then we're going to look at a bunch of cards that have seen pretty notable price changes since the set list was spoiled, because there are a lot of cards that have seen pretty significant increases in price, and I want you guys to know what they are. If you have them, maybe it's the best opportunity for you to sell them now. And finally, we're going to look at a few cards that didn't get reprinted in this set, but most definitely should have, and the future of these cards is kind of up in the air as to when they're going to be reprinted, so they are definitely cards that you should keep an eye on as well. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Alright guys, so the first thing that I want to talk about here is Siphermes actually. So this isn't to suggest that this is going to be a super dominant trend in the meta or anything, but with the new Siphermes Link monster coming out, you can activate Siphermes monsters effects from your hand while you control monsters on the field. So that being said, Siphermes are now an even better hand trap option because they're still great going first, but they're not necessarily dead draws going second, right? Also, Delta gives you the ability to negate any spell from your hand. So before you could use Ash Blossom to negate something like Rhoda or Tenki, but Delta gives you that extra little bit of versatility, and I definitely think that Siphermes Lambda is going to directly result in these cards seeing an increase in play. So Gamma it's actually seen a fair bit of play in the past, and it's already been reprinted as a super in the Extreme Force Special Edition, but even the reprints are going for $3 a piece at the moment, and if this Siphermes kind of engine with Lambda becomes more popular, I can definitely see Gamma being a $5-6 card really easily. Also, Delta and Epsilon, they negate spells and traps respectively, Delta being the one that is a little bit more useful because it can negate spells. And I think that they're decent cheap cards to just pick up and hold on to, right? They each only have the one printing in High Speed Riders, but Delta currently it's only $2, and Epsilon's a common, it's maybe a 50-cent card, so I think it's a pretty small investment to make. For me, these are cards that I'm personally sitting on multiple copies of each, and I'm definitely expecting them to see a lot more play and increase in price after Battles of Legend comes out. Okay, so next up, something that I'm pretty happy about is that Artifact Scythe is finally being reprinted. I did touch on this briefly in the previous video, but as of now, the entire Artifact engine has been reprinted and is therefore very easily accessible. This is still a really strong side deck engine for going first. In back row decks, it's a strong engine that only takes up 4 slots, so typically the 3 Sanctum and the 1 copy of Scythe, and it stuns your opponent's entire turn if they're dependent on the extra deck. So I know that if they're dependent on the extra deck is kind of something that'll depend on the format, but with how many decks just throw cards from their extra deck out onto the board so easily, that really shouldn't be a problem. And therefore I think it's a really smart idea to pick up an Artifact engine now while the cards are fairly cheap, right? So Artifact Sanctum, you're looking at only $5 a piece, and if you want a copy of Moral Attack because you want to play it, you can get a common for 50 cents because it was reprinted in the OTS pack. So really you're looking at $20 for the entire Artifact engine. And I mean, Sanctum is a card that has been bought out in the past, right? Before the Battles of Legend reprint previously, that was a couple years ago, the card was bought out and we saw it hit $20 plus. So it really wouldn't surprise me if the Artifact engine became more popular, if we saw Sanctum as a buyout target and it approached that $10, maybe $15 price point really easily. So I mean, in the end, you're looking at $20 for a really strong engine that can single-handedly win you games. It's definitely something that I would look into picking up sooner rather than later. Alright guys, so now we're going to look at a bunch of cards that have actually been pretty hyped up, and their prices have gone up considerably. So first of all, with Magical Musketeer Max finally coming into the TCG, we've seen the demand for Caspar and Starfire go up quite a bit. Currently Caspar is sitting at around that $20 to $21 price range, whereas Starfire is sitting around $15. Like, I don't really think that the deck though is going to see very much success at like the competitive level, but in terms of being a popular choice for like casual players, I think it's that's definitely the case. It has like a really unique play style that a lot of players are going to find interesting, because it basically turns all of the Magical Musketeer spells and traps into hand traps, right? You can activate them from your hand during your turn or your opponent's turn, as long as you control those Magical Musketeer monsters. That being said, I think that these cards are definitely a bit overhyped right now. Like personally, I'm holding on to a playset of each at the moment, but I'm probably gonna look into moving them within the next week or two. I feel like after the initial hype for these cards has like died down, then I mean like the cards are gonna settle back down in price. So I think Caspar is gonna settle back down at like that $12 to $15 price point, and Starfire is gonna come back to being $8 to $10. Especially because I don't think that these decks are going to have very much impact on the meta. So I mean, like, admittedly, the reprints for these cards are like still like quite a ways off, because we're just getting like Sky Striker reprints, and we're just getting Vampire and Fur Hire reprints in the Gold Sarcophagus Megatins in August. So I mean, like, in terms of them being reprinted anytime soon, not really likely to be the case. And I mean, admittedly, if the deck somehow becomes like a really strong meta deck, then yeah, of course, Caspar and Starfire, barring a reprint, are gonna go up in price. But ultimately, I find that really unlikely. That being said, if you like really want to play the deck though, either way, I would recommend waiting a couple of weeks after the release of Battles of Legend to allow the prices to kind of like come back down and settle down before buying into the archetype. Alright, so next up, this was really random, but we got like a bunch of Fortune Lady support. So we actually haven't received any support for this archetype for like a really long time. So there are a lot of cards within the archetype that haven't like ever been reprinted. I think most of them haven't been reprinted actually. That being said, there are a couple of cards that might actually just be like in your bulk or sitting in an old binder that are actually going to be worth money. So I think that if you have a chance, I think it would be worth looking through and trying to find these cards to go sell them. So most notably, we have two spell cards. We have a field spell, Future Visions. Future Visions, it banishes a monster for a turn when they're normal summoned, which I think helps the archetype. I mean, like, I'm not really sure. I haven't looked into this archetype very much. However, the other card, Fortune's Future. This card, it lets you put a banished Fortune Lady monster back into your graveyard and then draw two cards. I don't play very much Yu-Gi-Oh, but I know that any card that says draw two is probably going to be pretty decent. So yeah, both of these cards have actually only seen one printing, and they're each sitting at around $10 for like these really old super rares. Also, kind of like as a side note, if you guys happen to have any of the other Fortune Ladies, like most of them, they're only rares. But if you go to your locals and you can find someone who's looking to build like a Fortune Lady deck, you'd probably be able to like fetch like $1 a piece or so for them. So if you have the opportunity to go to your locals and sell them, I would definitely look into doing that. But yeah, so all of these cards from the archetype are definitely cards that I would move if I had them. Like personally, I feel like they're really prime candidates to be reprinted as OTS pack commons or supers. I don't know, that's just like a feeling that I have. And I mean, like, from what I've been told, the deck isn't very good, so like holding on to them, there's like minimal value. If you really want to play the deck, just like, I'd still sell it anyways and just buy them back when everyone, like when the hype's died down and when the cards have finally been reprinted. Yeah, so even if you like have them, I would look to sell them even at like discounted prices, right? Like I'd take like 60 to 70% of the card's value for them and just try to move it, get whatever value from these cards that I can, and just move them wherever possible, because they're definitely not cards you want to hold on to. Okay, So finally, we have a few like random different cards that have all seen price jumps. They didn't really fit together. Like there wasn't enough cards to create like individual groups, so I kind of grouped them together here. So first up, we have Mass Hero Darklaw, specifically the Ultimate Rare version. And I get it, we got like some new hero cards in the Battles of Legends set, and I mean like a couple of them, like Vision Hero like Increase, are actually kind of decent, but really nothing that's gonna push heroes into the meta anytime within the near future. But of course, they are heroes and they're really popular, so some people have decided that buying Ultimate Rare Darklaws was a good idea, and as a result, the card is now sitting at like $100 on TCG Player, which is pretty amusing. Like, it's gonna take some time for prices to settle down, but obviously I feel like this is like a super inflated price. If you're holding onto an ulti Darklaw and you by some miracle can find someone who's willing to pay like $100 for it, then I would sell it, absolutely. But like I wouldn't buy it for this price. Really, I just wait a little bit. If you're looking for one, wait for that price to settle back to around that $40, maybe $50 range and see if you can pick it up then. All right, next up we have Beatron. I actually remember being really choked because my friends and I, we were opening packs at locals, and I pulled an Ultimate Rare Beatron, and my friend pulled Card D. So yeah, there's that. Anyways, I'm not that salty. So with Battle Wasps coming out, Battle Wasps, yeah, the archetype kind of sucks, but apparently Ultimate Rare Beatron has like gradually been bought out, so that now it's sitting at like around $5. Honestly, like most of the copies of Beatron that I've had, I've moved for like 50 cents, $1, maybe $2, but like whatever. Yeah, so technically like the card can be played in Battle Wasps, but honestly that deck is just like really bad. I feel like people are just trying to like create opportunities in the market, right? So they're trying to look for cards that they can drive up in price so that they can sell them. But this one just feels kind of like forced. I wouldn't fall into this one. If you have like ulti Beatrons or even ultra Beatrons and you're able to move them, then like I absolutely would. I'd get rid of them because like the Battle Wasp deck definitely like isn't going to be doing anything competitive within the near future. So yeah, this is definitely a card that I would be looking to sell and not buy. So finally we have Traptrix Myrmelio. So with Traptrix Sarah, the Link 1 monster coming out, super rare Traptrix Myrmelios have almost been completely bought out. At the time I'm filming this, there's only like 5 or so listings on TCG Player. So Sarah requires just the 1 monster to summon, so that's like easy enough. But like the problem with the Traptrix Sarah, Traptrix Myrmelio is that there's not enough cards in the archetype for it to be a viable deck on its own. And at the same time, it as an engine isn't versatile enough, not strong enough, not splashable enough to see play in other strategies, right? So it's kind of like half an archetype that you can't really combine with anything else. And I feel like that's what's ultimately gonna result in Sarah and Myrmelio, like as a whole, just like not seeing very much play. Like Traptrix, I think they were on that poll for the new structure deck in the OCG, and I think Traptrix finished maybe like 5th or 6th. And if Traptrix had won, it would be like a completely different story. I'd be like, oh yeah, I would definitely be buying Super Myrmelios. But the way that things played out, I think that Myrmelio is just like another card that I would try to sell given the opportunity. It's sitting at around like $5 or so. And I'd say if you can get like that $3, $4, $5 price point for it, then I'd go ahead and sell the card. Alright guys, so finally the last little section here. There are some cards that I thought were definitely going to be reprinted in Battles of Legend this year because of their price points, but they weren't for whatever reason. That being said, whether or not they get reprinted soon is kind of like up in the air because this would have been a good chance. They're not like recent enough that they'll be in the megatins, and like these cards are like pretty archetype specific, so they're not generic enough to be in Dual Devastator. Honestly, I feel like the best place for these reprints would be like in an OTS pack as a common or a super, or some sort of set that has like a few reprints in it, kind of like Fist of the Gadgets that we have coming up. But none of the cards really seem to fit into like those themes. So yeah, you're just gonna have to kind of like use your own discretion when you're purchasing or selling these cards. So first up, Hidden City. It's currently sitting at around like $20. Still hasn't been reprinted. I thought that it was going to be reprinted when I saw that Subterra Guru was included in the set, but apparently not. It's still like a really good field spell, and the deck is like still a pretty viable rogue deck. So like, who knows, maybe they have something bigger for Subterra planned. I don't know. Elemental Hero Ernios. This is something that is like really overhyped for what it is, I feel. I get that it's like some kind of OTK enabler for some decks, but like also be aware that the card is inflated because it's a hero. Like there are lots of old ultimate rare elemental hero fusions that have just like driven up, that have like gone up in price over time, and what's happened is that like all of the elemental hero fusions have kind of like followed suit because people are wondering what that next card that people are going to be buying into is. So yeah, Elemental Hero Ernios, the ultras are going around like $60, but the ultimates are sitting at like $100 plus. I'm not gonna lie, if I had them, they would be gone within the next like 24 hours because I don't really see any reason for the card to be like this high. I mean, like, unless you're a collector that specifically wants to collect all the elemental heroes in max rarity, first edition, whatever. But like, if you're looking to just play it, I would sell it now and just like sit tight and wait for that reprint that's inevitably gonna come. Next up, we have Madolce Chocolat a la Mode. I'm still really upset about this card because I actually had like a bunch of copies. I gave one away to a friend. He still actually has it, like it's fine. And I sold a bunch of them for like $15 thinking that that was like a good price. And I mean, admittedly at the time it was, but who would have known that like Madolces of all things would be hyped up this much. Madolce Chocolat a la Mode is currently sitting at around like $35, which is kind of insane. Like it's definitely one of the prices that's like up there. I thought that this actually, along with like Magellan and maybe like Madolce Hootcake, were cards that would have been reprinted in Battles of Legend. But yeah, so this is a card, another card that I'd personally just like say sell and wait for a reprint. I know that there are a lot of players out there that are collectors. They're really big fans of this archetype. They want the deck in max rarity, and they want to like play it and collect it. And I mean, like, yeah, you can like feel free. Like the deck, it's probably gonna retain some value for the cards in max rarity because of how popular the deck is. I mean, like the archetype's like super cute, and the archetype, all the card names are puns, which is like amazing. But yeah, personally, from my perspective, this is like an archetype that I would probably just sell and wait for the reprints on. And finally, we have Ignis Heat. So it was like this card and Dynamite, like from the True Draco deck. But this is the one that's at 3 from True Draco that hasn't been reprinted. So this is the one we're going to talk about. This card's like $15 right now. I didn't even notice that until I was looking up cards for this video. I mean, like, True Draco is still okay as a rogue deck. Actually, now that I think, like, all of these cards are like from rogue decks, right? But yeah, True Draco is still like a decent deck. They have access to like Skill Drain / the Monarch's Erupt, and like Pot of Extravagance is still a really good card in the deck. But like, again, I think this is just like a rogue deck, minimal success. If you want to play it, go ahead and play it. But like, if you're just holding on to the cards, I would go ahead, sell them, wait for the reprint. You can always buy them back later. So yeah, like the thing about these cards is that we don't know when the reprints are gonna come, right? Like summer in Yu-Gi-Oh is like seen as reprint season for a reason, and that's because it can be like really unpredictable. We don't know when a card is going to be reprinted out of the blue, so it's always like best practice to just really be aware of the value of your cards. What are the cards that you own that are currently sitting like above that $15-20 price point, and is there potential for those cards to be reprinted within the near future? Because if they are, you want to sell them to maximize the dollar value for you wherever you can. Alright guys, so that is it for this market watch. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I actually worked from 10 a.m. till 11:30 p.m. today because I worked like 2 jobs. I got home at just after midnight, and I've been working on this video for the last like 3 hours, 4 hours, because I wanted to get this video out for you guys before the weekend so that hopefully you guys can take advantage of this information, get a head start, go into your locals with some type of goal in mind, be that you want to pick up some cards, you want to sell some cards, or whatnot. So yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed it. If you guys like this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's been a while since I've done this old school type of market watch video from way back when we first did it, so let me know if you liked it and want to see more. And if there are cards that you want me to talk about, be sure to drop a comment down below. I actually do go through and read like everyone's comments because I think that feedback is really important, and I'd love to hear it from all of you guys. And of course, make sure you subscribe to MST.TV if you haven't already. And until next time, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.